Well, good morning, everyone. My name is MightyStream. I'm going to do your December the 16th spiritual principle day in a meditation. How are you doing this morning? I hope you're doing well. The title of the meditation is Embracing the Spirit of Generosity. Giving generously of ourselves, especially when we are in pain, is a path through some of our sorrow and confusion. That comes from our Living Clean book, chapter 4, Death, Dying, and Living with Grief. The connection between generosity and pain may not seem obvious right away. However, early recovery is a good example of how giving of ourselves can help us endure pain and discomfort. When we first get clean, some of us find we're grieving many losses: our self-respect, our sense of self, the lifestyle and image that defined us, our relationship with drugs and people we used with. Some of us come to NA mourning the loss of friends or family members to the disease. No one arrives to NA pain-free, but all of us who stay find some relief, usually by our active participation in NA. I hardly knew what to do with myself when I got clean, one member shared. I felt like an exposed nerve. Before and after meetings, I'd help with anything that needed to be done: handing out reading cards, taking out the trash, stacking the chairs. Helping the trusted servants made me feel better. Generosity gets us out of ourselves. We stop focusing on our every thought and emotion and instead turn our attention to those around us. Even when we're in pain or discomfort, generosity helps us do something when we don't know what else to do. Giving as a diversion from desperation is not necessarily the whole solution. Postponing feelings doesn't make them go away, but a brief respite can renew our energy or refresh our thinking so that we can apply other solutions as well. Perhaps mostly important, in helping others, we can find the willingness to accept help. Life is difficult, but we are not alone. We have each other. Grief, pain, hardship, and sorrow are all natural parts of life. To find my way through difficulties, I will embrace the spirit of generosity I find in NA. I will help others and allow them to help me. That's a beautiful meditation, isn't it? I love that meditation. Let's take a moment of silence, followed by the wee version of the Serenity Prayer. Moment of silence now, please. Thank you. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today, please and thank you. What a beautiful meditation. I really like this meditation, talking about embracing the spirit of generosity and how getting outside of ourselves and doing service, being generous with our time and our energy. I'm not talking about generosity with money necessarily. And I think a lot of times people think of generosity having to do with um, finances or material things, right? But we're talking about the spirit of generosity. So now we're talking about something that is starts internally and it manifests itself externally, right? So we're not talking about finances, although we could be. But we're talking about the spirit of generosity, which is something that comes from within. And this spirit of generosity has the potential to help us through very difficult times that we individually might be going through. Because just assured, as if I sit down in a meeting, the person next to me has their own story and they have a lot of pain that they've endured, that they've lived through, right? A lot of trauma. That if I say, tell me just in the last 3 years, what painful situation have you gone through and stayed clean? I mean, even relapse is painful. So it doesn't necessarily mean they stayed clean through it, right? But the point is that everyone has a story. Everyone has some pain that they passed through. And there's a tendency sometimes, because we're so wrapped up in our own recovery process, our own pain, our own grieving, there's a tendency, not necessarily to try and compare stories, but there's a tendency not to pay attention, to mute the stories of other individuals, because we're so focused on our coming through our situation the best that we can. But the spirit of generosity has the ability to take a person out of themselves and cause them to invest in the wellness of another person. And when that happens, what often does happen is that if for no other reason, it's almost like meditation, but if for no other reason, you are no longer focused on your own self, your own difficulties. You're aware of yourself, right? Just like in meditation, but you're not focused on everything that you're passing through from day to day, right? And now you're allowing yourself through the spirit of generosity to be helpful to another human being. It causes them, those feelings, those things that you're going through, to cease to have their impact in an intense manner, right? It postpones the effect of the negative, the painful stuff, the hardships, the sorrow, the grieving, the difficulties that you pass through. It postpones the effect of that, and it gives you a reprieve. And it's brief. It's brief. It doesn't make those things go away, but it's brief enough to allow your energy to be refreshed, to be renewed, so that you will be in a position to come up with other solutions, other ideals. It's like cutting off cortisol leaks. It stops the madness so that you have an opportunity to regroup. That in of itself is healthy. And it's also helpful to those that you express your generosity towards, whether it be service work, helping someone clean their home, helping someone take care of their yard work, helping someone get to the grocery store, helping in the meeting with making sure that the bathrooms stay clean, making sure that the people that come through the door are given a pamphlet about what the NA program is. They're shown around so they know exactly where the bathrooms are, or just staying on top of the coffee, the hot water, the tea. I'll never forget the first time I went to a meeting and they actually had something other than coffee to serve. It was so nice to have an option of having some herbal tea or some hot chocolate. It was so nice to have another option besides coffee. Maybe you're the individual that brings that up to the home group, and you're the individual that makes it possible for someone to have, I don't know, stevia, honey, anything besides sugar. Maybe that's your spirit of generosity. It's just a thought. It's a small thing, but I guarantee you that when you're focusing on displaying the spirit of generosity that is within you, you're not going to be focused on your grief, your pain, your hardship, or sorrow, or difficulties. Because even though we talk about multitasking, what really is happening is that when you're focused on one thing, it's impossible to be focused on something else. When we talk about multitasking, we're talking about a person that cycles through designated time for certain things. So while I'm doing laundry, I could also be working on my paper. I have to still stop and start the laundry. And then I move on to the paper. Then I go back to the laundry. It's very difficult to truly focus on a number of things at the same time. So why not allow yourself to embrace the spirit of generosity and see if it might be able to give you that reprieve from your own troubles long enough to allow you to return to them refreshed with new ideals, new ways of applying spiritual principles. As you're listening to me, I'm sure you might be doing something else in the background, right? But one thing is certain, is that now you have been introduced to a spiritual principle of generosity and how it can help you get a reprieve from all of those things that you are worrying about. My name is Mighty Stream. I've enjoyed talking to you today. I hope that you will have a beautiful day on purpose. You deserve it.